How's it going, everybody? Welcome back to the Emerald Crusader live stream. My name is Isaiah. Thank you for joining me. Hope everyone had a good Sunday. I am so excited to welcome you to the first installment of Music Monday. So, we're going to do things a little bit differently from the last few streams. There's going to be a few less videos and a little bit more of me. So we'll see how that goes. But if you're new to the stream, I go live 5 days a week, and each stream has each one has a different series, has a different theme to it. And so music is very important to me, and so that's why I started the Music Monday stream. And so yeah. Uh, we're gonna talk about basically anything to do with music. I've got it broken up into a few different segments. These are gonna be revolving segments. Some may go, some may stay. New ones might jump in here or there. Some might be once a month. We'll kind of feel it out. But as it is today, I've got a few fun segments lined up for us. So, the new segments are going to be first, Center Stage. Center Stage is going to be the main piece of the stream. It's going to be mostly musical deep dives into various musical artists, groups, genres, events, anything that I really stumble across or know about that I really want to explore more in depth. So that's going to be the first segment out the gate. And then the next one is going to be suggested suggestions. So, again, love music, near and dear to my heart. One of my favorite pastimes is going through what I've titled my suggestions playlist. And so I have Apple Music, and I get suggested music in multiple different ways all throughout the day. I mean, I talk about it with people. I get suggested different music by Apple, by YouTube, on the radio. I'll hear a random song in a movie, and I'll look up the artists, and if I like it, I'll add their entire discography to that playlist. And then when I have a spare moment, or I just want to kick back for a little while, I put that playlist on shuffle and let whatever the suggestions playlist bring me. And so with that said, I'm going to do a short segment on my favorite find of the week. This is totally subjective, and fair warning, I love all genres of music, from metal to rap to country to Mongolian throat singing to opera to classical. If it's got a rhythm or a melody, I'm probably going to listen to it. So suggested suggestions are going to be songs that I suggest off of my suggestions playlist. Suggestively. So that's going to be that segment. Interesting instruments is one I'm really excited about. So for those of you that aren't aware, there are hundreds and hundreds of weird and strange instruments that walk the earth. There's so many different ways to make noises with things, and so these some of them were cobbled together really quick out of necessity. Some of them have engineers developing them for a decade before they're patented, and so we're gonna take a little bit of time out of the stream to check out a weird instrument once a week and just see what's out there that people are making noise with. And then we're gonna cap off the stream with a music moment of the week. And so uh, I'm gonna just roam social media for random, candid, musically oriented movies, or I mean videos that I find that happened that week, asterisk or close to that week. Sometimes the candid musical moments can be in short supply on social media. So I reserve the right to step back a few years and grab a candid moment. But I'm gonna try and keep it somewhat timely. I want to keep it close to that week, if not in that week. So those are going to be the segments for the show. Let me know what you think. Let me know if you have any suggestions on different segments we could do, different ways to do these segments, and really anything. I'm really open to it. But let's check out this structure that I have planned for us tonight and see how it works. So the first segment up is going to be Center Stage. I am very excited about this. Like I said, I want to have Center Stage be things that either contributed a massive amount to music or contributed a massive amount to me personally, and this one just so happens to have both. We're going to be talking about the great Jocko Pistorius. So, just a brief introduction. Jocko Pistorius was an American jazz bassist who was from Pennsylvania, I believe, but he grew up mostly in South Florida. And this guy, I mean, I'll let smarter, more talented men who've said it better say it for me. So we've got a couple of quotes from some people you may or may not have heard of. Robert Trujillo. I always say his name wrong. I hope I'm saying that somewhat right there. But he's the bassist for Metallica, and I put his quote first because he put together a phenomenal documentary in patronage to Jocko Pistorius, and a lot of the stuff I'm going to cover in this video borrows heavily from not only that, but also from an article by Reinhard Bach titled "In Memoriam Jocko Pistorius," and it's a personal biographical sketch by Aspen Pittman. So both of these are really give a great insight into Jocko Pistorius, but the documentary unfortunately has a ton of really good but copyrighted music that I can't use. I don't own the rights to. So in lieu of just sitting here and playing the documentary, I thought I would share what the documentary had to share. If you're interested in checking out the documentary, I believe it's free on Tubi. I think that's the only place that has it free legally. Make sure you're getting a legal copy of this. Seriously, they worked really hard on it, so get a legal copy. And I think other places like YouTube or Amazon Prime or other premium services, you can get I think it's like $3 or something like that. Well worth it. Excuse me for 1 second. My dog is going insane. Sorry about that. Had some Amazon packages delivered. Live show, baby. Okay, but yes. So check out the documentary. But the guy who created it, again, bassist for Metallica, said once you actually heard him play, it was like getting slapped in the face. Like, wow. Flea, bassist of Red Hot Chili Peppers, is quoted in saying, "Everything changed. When he started playing, it was never the same. He shredded everything that came before him, and it'll never be done again. He just changed the rules of what's possible on the bass and what can be done." And then Juan Alderete, the bassist for Mars Volta, said that that dude was the greatest, you know? I mean, we all said it. He's our Hendrix, referring to bass players, bass guitar players specifically. And then just a small name you might have heard of, just Carlos Santana said about him, "It's like going to a game and you were rooting for Michael Jordan." The contributions this guy made to music alone, outside of his insane talent, is it just I don't have enough time on stream to go over them, but we can talk a little bit about his life. So let's talk about Jocko Pistorius. He was born to Jack Pistorius and Stephanie Pistorius. So I think a little bit of backstory on parents helps inform what goes on a little bit later in his life. So his mother, Stephanie, was the middle child of 9 children. She had an apparently horrific childhood because of abuse by her mother. It was said that her mother just took all of her stress in life out on poor Stephanie there. And Stephanie, according to her son Gregory, really just wanted to be a homemaker and take care of someone. And then let's talk about Jocko's father. So Jocko's real name is John Francis Anthony Pistorius, and he is the third. So Jack Pistorius is also actually John Pistorius. They actually say that he changed his name to Jocko because he was so into sports, and there was a famous umpire named Jocko. And then I think his mom always said that she coined naming him Jocko, but his name was actually always John. So Jack Pistorius was a jazz singer and stand-up drummer. This had a huge impact on how Jocko grew up. I mean, his dad was really, really big back in the 50s era, really when Sinatra was big and the Rat Pack was doing their thing, and that kind of music was in full swing. And so Jack toured around a lot. He wasn't really home a lot. Apparently he was charming as hell. When he went out, everyone wanted to hang out with him and buy him a beer, but it made for a rough relationship between him and Stephanie because they wanted opposite things. He wanted to go roam the country and have fun with his band, and she just wanted to take care of someone and be a homemaker. And something else that he said about Jocko was he said that he was weird in every way. And that's gonna kind of be important a little bit later. And he always was a hard worker. Quote, "Never cost me a dime," Jack said. So Jocko was born in December on the 1st in 1951 in Norristown, Pennsylvania. He changed his name to Jocko and he had two younger brothers, Greg and Rory. Um, when he was 8, Jocko moved to South Florida with his family. And that's, again, going to have a huge impact on Jocko, especially with his musical development. The way he described South Florida at the time, in the early 60s and 70s, was having no real musical prejudice. Whatever you wanted to hear, you could hear, and everything was hip. And so, because of this, he grew up listening to a ton of different music styles. I mean, his dad always had Tony Bennett records and Sinatra records and everything like that. And then he would also, be able to go ride his bike around some of the neighborhoods and hear conga music with Cuban influences and jazz music and things like that. So he really, really got into an environment with a diverse musical atmosphere. And I mean, even still, there, like, it's the South, so he was listening to country too, and blues and stuff like that. He also attended Catholic school, and he was intensely competitive, and excelled at baseball, basketball, and football. I think that's also important, because that's going to be not just something that he applies to sports. It's going to be a character trait that Jocko has. He has a tendency to push towards excellence and perfection, and he expected it also of everyone else. Not really in a contentious way, but because of this, it appears to make him feel like an outsider. He feels like he never has someone that meets his level of ambition and intensity and the desire to have the perfect whatever, the perfect play, the perfect hit, the perfect catch, what have you. He grew up very poor. Sometimes when Jack was most of the time on the road, him and his brothers would stay with his mom, Stephanie, there in the background of the photo. And so Jack would lapse on sending them money, and they would often end up eating like really cheap, unhealthy dinners, like Kool-Aid and pancakes for dinner. And so things weren't, it wasn't like they were living life in excess when they were growing up. Something that happened in his childhood that really made him stand out among everyone else for the first time was when his father was working a gig at Charlie Johnson's Crab House. When his mom Stephanie brought him in for dinner, he said, I got Jocko up on the bandstand, sat him down on the piano, and he sang the whole Come Fly Away With Me album. That was the first time that I ever thought, man, this guy is going to be something. He just sat there like nothing as he sang the whole album. And so right there, right off the rip, very, very young, he's memorizing and singing Sinatra albums on a bandstand. So he's obviously extremely musically inclined at a very, very young age. At night, when he was young, he would go to bed with a transistor radio listening to Cuban music. And again, that's really important because that's going to inform his playing and where his career goes later. He was, again, a very, very hard worker. He applied that to everything. He had a paper route with 250 houses a day to pay for his first set of drums. And I think he went with drums because, again, his dad was a stand-up drummer, and so also listening to conga beats at night, he was very clearly obsessed with the rhythm section at a young age. And so that's hard to determine whether that's like, nature or nurture, whether he would have gravitated towards the drums and the rhythm section, or if it's because his dad was there, but he did so nonetheless. So now let's move on to his teens and early years. So this is Jocko, again, still in South Florida. He joined the first band, Los Olos Brass, at age 13, playing drums there on the left. At the age of 13, he also broke his wrist playing football, and that meant the end of playing drums for Jocko. But at around the same time, the bass player left the band. 2 weeks later, Jocko was playing bass even better than his predecessor, and he taught himself and picked up ideas for his style by listening to music on an old children's record player he had won in a Rice Krispies competition. And these crappy little record players that they were giving away back then in Rice Krispie competitions, they didn't have great balance to their sound, and so it barely picked up the bass, and really all you could hear on these records were whatever horns or whatever singer was going on at the time, because the bass would be just completely drowned out. And so again, that's really going to inform things later with him practicing that way with a bass guitar. Something also to note. Something. I'm sorry. I wanted to get into some content warnings before we continue this story. So the story does end in tragedy. Some of the things that are covered in this story are segregation. Other topics are mental illness and violence and murder, second-degree murder to be specific. So if you're uncomfortable with any of those topics, probably best to drop out. So with those content warnings out of the way, something to mention about when and where he grew up is that Florida was extremely segregated at the time. So Jocko and his mother and his brothers lived on the outskirts of the white side of town because they were poor, so they lived right on the edges of the ghettos, and so him and his brothers would often ride their bikes through what then was considered the hood, and because they did this, again, he was able to be exposed to many different types of music, and after being exposed and incorporating those types of music, he would go to clubs in the area to play shows there for different bands. And this is like when he's like 14, 15, 16 years old. This is very, very unorthodox at the time for a 15, 16, 17-year-old white kid to be in a black club playing bass. But they not only allowed him to, but loved him. They relished him in the black and Cuban communities in his neighborhoods, surely because of his talent. He could get on stage and express why he deserved to be there with his bass guitar. And so a little bit later in his teenage years, he met Tracy, who would later become his first wife. So they met in high school, and then right when he got out of high school, he married Tracy. And so Tracy was also the daughter of a jazz musician, and they moved into their first apartment in Hollywood, Florida. So they had their first child right when he graduated, and she was still a senior. Because of this, according to his brother Gregory, Jocko told him, Gregory, I've got to do something with the electric bass guitar that's never been done before. And when he said this, he was pointing at his newborn daughter, Mary. And, I mean, the rest is history. Like, that's exactly what he did. They also later had a son that they named John the Fourth after his family name. So when he was 17, I believe it was, he played with a band called Wayne Cochran and the CC Riders. According to Wayne Cochran, this is a quote talking about whenever Jocko was auditioning, because he walked up and the other guys in the band were just like, the skinny white kid, what's he gonna do? And so that's Jocko there, just to the right of the center, and according to Wayne Cochran, they discussed this in the documentary, he's so skinny that he had to wear his normal clothes under his tuxedo in order for it to fit properly. So that's just, again, that's who's walking up to these grown men who've been musicians for forever, being like, yeah, I can keep up with you guys, no problem. And so once he started his audition and started playing, Wayne Cochran says, it was strange. He could play fills, blues fills, that people hadn't played in 30 years. If he heard it one time, he could play it authentically, to where not only the notes were right, but the feel was right. And again, 17-year-old keeping up with professional musicians. According to some of the bandmates that he played with, whenever he did travel, he was extremely frugal. This is because he is insane about his children. He loves his children to death. He was quoted from one of his fellow bandmates saying he was a great road dad. He only had 2 pairs of corduroys and 3 t-shirts. Everything that he traveled with fit in his bass guitar case. And he always ordered the cheapest thing on the menu, and then immediately after a gig, he stuffed everything in a sock, put it in his case, and everything went back home to the kids. And then he traveled around with them for a little while, and he invented the bass guitar, the fretless bass guitar at age 21. He was still playing with Wayne Cochran at the time, but I have a little clip here from the documentary that luckily has no music behind it, so no copyright claim. But this is Jocko talking about how he came to invent the fretless bass guitar. Absolutely. So that, everyone, is Jocko Pistorius. So this is the first time that I've done one of those deep dives. This one ended up being 1 hour and 40 minutes long. So I might make these a little bit shorter in the future, might make them a little bit longer. But with that said, we don't have a lot of time for the remaining segments. So let's continue with the stream. The next segment is interesting instruments. So the instrument this week that I found is the pyrophone. Pyrophone. This thing is, honestly, it might be more of a visual spectacle than an instrument, but it is still really cool as an instrument and a concept altogether. So the pyrophone originated in the 19th century. Byron Higgins, using hydrogen burning within the bottom of an open glass tube, first pointed out that if the flame was placed in the glass tube, the sound that it produced might come out. And so if you know how an organ works, essentially, okay, if you know how a flute works, a flute is a pipe with a little hole in it, and you put wind through it and it makes a noise. So if you take a bunch of those pipes and put air through them whenever you press a certain key, that's an organ. A pyrophone is an organ that, instead of using air, at the bottom of each pipe, it has a little pilot light that whenever you press whatever note, it shoots flame out of that pipe. It releases gas and shoots flame out of that pipe, and it's set to release the proper amount of glass. The proper amount of gas with the proper amount length cut. It will produce the desired tone. And so I just thought this was so cool. I mean, it's a flame shooting organ, for Christ's sake. And so just to see this baby in action, I really hope that this is not copyrighted. Please don't be copyrighted, because it's so cool. Play it anyway, but please don't be copyrighted. It's literally the only piece of music besides the awesome beats by Harris Heller at Alpha Gaming. Go subscribe to him, but here's the flame organ. All right.
So say bye-bye to those eyebrows, because here's some Bernie Fire music.
It certainly has its own interesting, almost electronic sounding tone to it. So yeah, that is the pyrophone, and that is the interesting instrument of the week. So next segment, we're going to do our suggested suggestions. So this week's suggested suggestion is a gentleman by the name of Billy Strings. So Billy Strings, one second. He was born William Apostle and adopted the name Billy Strings after his aunt called him it for his ability to play stringed instruments. He was born in '92 in Lansing, Michigan. His stepfather, Terry Barber, was a picker in a bluegrass band in Michigan, although he was never professionally played. Barber was a heavy influence on his son, introducing him to traditional bluegrass at a young age. Ugh. Getting tongue-tied all over the place. Bill's stepfather introduced him to a ton of different bluegrass artists at an extremely young age. And he has released 2 different studio albums and then 2 he did with a gentleman by the name of Don Julian. Now those are good. Those are the Rock of Ages and Fiddle Tune X, which are good. But my personal favorite is his solo work, Turmoil and Tinfoil and Home. So Turmoil and Tinfoil is his first one, and I believe it debuted in 2017. Yeah, 2017. And that has my personal favorite song by him, which is the title track from that album, and it's just so good. I mean, the guy, in my opinion, is hands down the best bluesgrass picker of our generation, possibly ever, maybe. Let me know what you think about that. But yeah, Billy Strings, cannot say more about him. He is just the bomb. Check him out if you're into bluegrass or folk or country at all. He's great. So let's move on to the next section. The next section is Music Moment of the Week. So, Music Moment of the Week is just whatever random video that I find on social media, hopefully within the past week, that has something to do with music. This music moment is brought to you by Dr. Funk. So Dr. Funk, if you don't know him, he's a busker in the UK, and he slaps bass like no other. And yeah, he's great. I'm gonna play that video in just a moment. Wanted to discuss a few more things about the stream. So before we cap off for this evening, I am going to be off tomorrow, but I will be back on Wednesday at 5 o'clock. Wednesday is changing up. It's no longer going to be What I Watch Wednesday. I know, I've changed it twice, and we haven't even had one Wednesday yet. But I'm gonna pick a series for Wednesday. And I think the series is going to be Willpower Wednesday. So, the reason why I chose that, this is the Emerald Crusader stream. If you know anything about Emerald Crusader, i.e. the Green Lantern, his superpower, sure, he has a ring, but his superpower isn't really the ring. That's like saying Batman's power is bat gadgets. It's not. His Batarang is useless if not being wielded by Bruce Wayne himself. So, just like that, Hal Jordan's power is not the ring, but it is in fact his will that powers the ring. And so, alien technology has a ring that if you just will something, it will come into existence. And he got the ring because of his sheer willpower. And he was the greatest Green Lantern of the Green Lantern Corps because he had the strongest willpower. And that's why I love Green Lantern so much. It encourages me and inspires me to try and have and assert a little bit more of my own willpower. And so because of that, we're going to be doing Willpower Wednesdays. So those are going to be deep dives, kind of similar to the center stage piece for the Monday music streams, but it's going to be a deep dive in a story about a person or a group of people that displayed a tremendous execution of will. So that's going to be the stream on Wednesday, and then yeah, Thursday's still going to be Thoughtful Thursday, and Friday is still going to be the Book Club Chai Friday. Saturday is TBD. We might do another Weekend Deep End. We might do something else. I will update you when I know, and then yeah, we'll be back here on Wednesday. So, without further ado, this is Dr. Funk to play us out. Please don't be copyrighted.